Howdy folks, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you a guide to how you can do the solo Spire of the Watcher. Now this guide could be done either just to complete the solo, or if you want to go for solo flawless, either or, it does not matter, the strategy will not change. Before starting out, I want to say the easiest class to get this solo done on is going to be a Warlock. Reasons for this is because Starfire Protocol is still currently very busted on Warlock, which makes it very hard for Titans and Hunters to compete with them. Because of this, I will only be going over the Warlock strategy and not any strategies for Titan or Hunter, but you can adapt it in your own way if you would like. While not impossible to do on a Titan or Hunter, I would just not recommend it, as you have to go through the full dungeon if you want to get to rank 11. Now, also, I will not be going into extreme detail on how to complete each encounters, more or less just giving you tips on how to complete them a little bit easier. Now, starting out when you first load in, it's going to be the entrance. Now, the entrance isn't too hard, all you have to know is just learn the node locations and just shoot them very quickly. Now, one tip that I can give for this is don't shoot the final 4 nodes until you shoot all the other ones. Once you shoot the final 4 nodes, it'll spawn supplicants, but if you shoot them all at the same time, it won't spawn them. So if you have the ability to, leave the last 4 nodes until you get all the other ones shot, so that way you don't spawn them. Another thing I'd say for almost this entire dungeon is just don't stop moving, because if you stop moving, odds are there's going to be ads that kill you, and in the entrance, it's going to be a Cyclops. So you don't want to stop moving, you want to always be on your feet. After you complete the entrance, you'll be onto the jumping puzzle to the first encounter. And I would just recommend clearing all the ads and taking your time with this if you're not confident in your ability to make jumping puzzles with ads shooting you. Now, for the first real encounter, it's going to be the Ascent. The Ascent is kind of similar to the entrance, and all you have to do is shoot nodes to eventually go up the elevator and climb the tower. Now, there's not really that many tips I can give for this Ascent part, as all you really need to do is learn the nodes, but if you wanted to as well, I would recommend clearing the ads, or if you know how to do this very quickly, I would just speedrun it. Since all the nodes are static, it shouldn't be too hard to memorize them and then just speedrun it. Now for this encounter, I would recommend running an eager edge sword and a trace rifle, but other than that, your other weapon does not matter. You want to use the eager edge sword to help you get around and shoot the nodes quickly, and along with a trace rifle allows you to shoot the nodes without having to reload as often as using something like an SMG. Additionally, you can add on a wither horde as well as your last weapon, so that way you can just shoot it at a group of enemies and keep running. But it's not really much more than that I can give for the Ascent. Now, moving on to the first boss, we have Akelous. Now, the entire objective of this encounter is going to be shooting all the nodes to the end until you activate all the fuel rods. Now, before we get into the actual encounter itself, I want to go over loadouts. What I did for this encounter is I had 2 different loadouts. One with Starfire for the neutral game, so that way I can kill ads very easily with my fusion nades. Along with this, it also had things like ammo finders and scavenger mods in order to keep my ammo economy alright during all the phases. Along with this, I was running a wither horde, a trace rifle, mainly the one from Season of the Haunted, because it has repulsor brace and lead from gold. And for my heavy weapon, I was using the cataclysmic from Ballad the Disciple because it is easily the best LFR in the game, as bait and switch on it allows you to get a 35% damage increase to your weapon. Most other LFRs will only get a maximum buff of about 20 to 15%. Cataclysmic's 35% damage increase from bait and switch is going to be absolutely necessary for this. Now, while it's not exactly necessarily needed, it will take you a bit more phases to kill this boss if you don't have it. Now, for my damage loadout, I would do the same thing. I would run the same exact weapons, but instead of using a Starfire Protocol, I would use Ophidians, which the reason for this I'll get into a little bit later when we start getting to the damage area of this boss. Now, as for my armor mods, I would make sure to run a charged up so I can get 4 armor charges total, 1 time dilation so they would last longer. With this, I would run 3x solar weapon surges, just so I can get the most out of my cataclysmic. And with this loadout, I was able to consistently 5 phase this Harpy boss, and if you get a little bit unlucky with your swaps, it might be a 6 phase. But if you don't have a bait and switch cataclysmic, it might take you even longer, anywhere from 6 to 8 phases depending on how they go. Do not recommend, if you don't have cataclysmic, to use any of the 3 burst LFRs, as it'll be very hard to hit all 3 shots on a Harpy boss. So something like Taipan or Reach Regret will be good for this boss. Now for the actual raid encounter itself, it's mostly just running to node to activate the fuel rods, which isn't usually too hard, but you do want to take the most safe route possible while activating the nodes, as because these are on these like little beams going out to each side, it is very easy to fall off the map, especially since there are holes on the platforms. And in the background, I'll be having gameplay of how I did it in my route that I took. Now for this encounter, you shouldn't be scared to use your well, as with Starfire, you're able to get your well back very fast as long as you're running Ashes the Assets on your helmet. Now once you get onto the last fuel rod that you need to activate, you should swap over to your damage loadout and make sure you're full on armor charge before going into damage. Now we also use the trace rifle to shoot all the the nodes, but the biggest use of it here is going to be that you need to use the trace rifle to shoot all the eyes. This is huge because you do not want to use a SMG or anything like that to shoot the eyes. The reason for this that not many people know about is that the faster you shoot the eyes, the longer damage phase you get on this boss, which is going to be vital for low phasing the boss. Make sure you reload the trace rifle before damage phase so you're able to shoot all the eyes. As the more phases it takes to kill this boss, the more risk is going to be involved in you dying in a later phase. Now, what you should be doing as soon as boss is about to open his eyes for you to shoot, you should be placing your well. This is to assure that you get the damage buff for your trace rifle to shoot the eyes quicker. Along with that, you don't die to the side harpies if there are still some alive. Now, the entire strategy I used as well is after you shoot all the eyes, you just shoot them with Witherhorde and proc your bait and switch. And you just want to stay in your well, you do not want to move forward with the boss. The reason for this is so you're able to reduce your risk of getting booped off the map when he does his blast. Along with this, you'll just have a constant 25% empowering buff while you're standing in well. But once you shoot out your first whole mag of Cataclysmic at him with bait and switch, odds are you'll be able to reload and probably get a few more shots off. But you do not want to proc bait and switch again, as it'll waste too much time and you won't get enough damage to be beneficial out of it. So once you shoot your first mag of bait and switch, just reload and start unloading with Cataclysmic, and don't try to reproc bait and switch. This is the reason we are using Ophidians, is so that way you speed up your reload. Along with that, you can speed up your weapon swaps while you're trying to proc bait and switch to begin with. Now, another option for instead of running Ophidians will be running Lunafaction boots, as they give you a slightly faster reload speed, but you will not get the handling benefit that Ophidians give you. Now, once you kill Akelous, you're going to move on to the Descent. Now, I can't really give you much for the Descent. All you need to know is that you just got to play it safe in the fan rooms, and that's about it. And the easiest way to play safe here is either going to be jumping on the platforms or down the side of the holes, as you will not get hit by a fan while going down the side holes. If you can combine those tips together, that would be for the best. Now, finally, you should be on Persys. Now, Persys compared to Akelous is going to be a much easier damage phase, as you can guaranteed pretty much 4-phase him, or if you're really good, you can 3-phase him. Now, the thing that makes Persys a little bit harder compared to Akelous is just by the fact you'll be being chased around by supplicants almost the entire fight. Knowing that, you just always want to keep moving and just, if you can, throw a fusion nade at them so that way they die. But if you can't, just keep moving forward and try not to loop around to the same spot twice, as odds are there will be supplicant in that spot you just looped from. Now, going into the loadout, I would recommend using Starfire Protocol. That should be obvious considering how strong fusion nades are on this boss, along with demolitionist rockets. This leads me into my next section, which is going to be weapons. Now, for neutral game, I would run Witherhorde, the same trace rifle as the one you used in first boss, and lastly, a demolitionist explosive light hothead if you're able to. Otherwise, you can use any other demolitionist rocket. Now, for this one, since it is the neutral game build, I would recommend you run ammo scavengers and ammo finders, so that way you're able to stock up on heavy in between damage phases. Along with that, you should also be running a firepower mod, so that way whenever you get kills with your grenade, you spawn orbs for your explosive light stacks on your rocket. Now, moving on to the DPS loadout, once you close the door to start damage phase, this is when you want to swap to the loadout. Now, for the loadout, it consists of Witherhorde, Salvager Salvo, and the Hothead. For the Salvagers, you want to run Demolitionist Vorpal, so that way you get the most out of its damage. For the armor mods, all you'll really need is the 3x weapon surge, but it's also nice to have it charged up and a time dilation. Now, for the actual encounter itself, there's not too much I can really say. Realistically, it's just the same mechanic as all the other encounters in this dungeon, and all you just really need to do is just keep on your feet and keep running so you don't get blown up by a supplicant. I will say though, inside of the final room where the boss spawns, there is usually an infinite spawn of ads that you can just infinitely farm for ammo if you need it. Along with that, you can farm orbs off of it for your explosive light stacks. Once you shoot the last 2 nodes to start damage, you want to make sure you don't swap to your damage loadout immediately, and you want to make sure that you close the door first. So once you shoot the final 2 nodes in the boss room, you want to come back out and wait for the nodes to open to close the door and lock the boss in. Once you shoot all 5 of those nodes to close the door, you want to make sure you swap loadouts then and play in this safe spot so you make sure you don't die. Now, this spot is really good because it allows you to play around either like the jump up or even just like a little further back behind the corner. You can play this on either side. Just you want to place the well on the opposite of where the boss is inside of the explosion area room. So for example, if he is next to the bomb when it detonates on the right side, you want to place your well on the left, or if he's on the left inside that boss room, you want to place your well on the right, just to make sure you don't have to wait for the boss to walk around the corner before you can see him and you're just able to immediately start damage. Now the combo here is realistically just sticking him with Wither Horde, spamming Demolitionist to reload your grenade launcher and rocket. The thing with this is that Demolitionist has a small cooldown before it can be re-procced again. So the strategy is going to be using a demo reload for your rocket, swapping to grenade launcher, demo reload it, swap back to rocket, demo reload it, and just continue like that. Basically just alternating weapons so your demo reload resets. And every so often you want to stick the boss with Wither Horde to make sure that you're keeping your uptime on your fusions as high as it possibly can be. If that combo seems a little bit too complicated for you, then what you could do is you could just stick him with Wither Horde and spam grenades and rockets only. You don't necessarily have to use the salvo, but it'll very likely be guaranteed a 4-phase if you do that. You want to be very careful so that way the boss isn't in front of you when you shoot a rocket so you don't accidentally kill yourself. And that's why this corner where you place the well is so good, because it allows you to either jump up or play the back corner in cover, so that way you don't have to worry about getting too close to the boss and him killing you. Oh, once you get down the first damage phase, you just repeat everything you did before. And once you get done with this, that should be the completion for the solo dungeon, or even solo flawless if you attempted the solo flawless. So if you found today's video helpful or informative, please leave a like, comment, and sub. By the time this video is up, we might have already hit up 1,000 subscribers, and I just wanted to thank all of you for hitting that subscribe button. Or if you're not subscribed yet, if you could please do that, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.